and welcome to another Liberty's Lantern. Today we're going to be talking about calling libertarians racist and why it's wrong, but I understand where you're coming from because you have a certain mindset, and that's okay, but we're going to go through it step by step. Today behind me is the Bedford flag. This was the flag that was flown at Concord in Massachusetts in 1775, the beginning of the Revolutionary War. So kind of a little bit of history behind us there as well. It's not the actual flag, it's just a representation, but hey, a little fun to look at behind me. So we're going to get started here in just a second, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So actually, even to me today, this week, I was talking about libertarianism, or I had shared a Liberty's Lantern, and someone had seen it, and they came back and said, boy, are libertarians racist. And if you know me, I would like to think I am not a racist individual. I really pride myself on not seeing color or whatever, but that's just me. Are there racist libertarians? I'm sure, just like there are racist Democrats and racist Republicans, they're out there. It's an unfortunate part of humanity that we harp on our differences, but if you choose to overlook it, you choose to overcome, you become a better human being for it, but that's neither here nor there. That is a conversation about humanity and sociology that we are not going to have at this point. But the biggest thing about why libertarians, I feel, get called racist or uncaring or a whole numerous different aspects is because people don't understand the way libertarian ideals are set up any longer. I think we have been so far removed from a lot of different aspects of how government functions today that we're all stuck in that same rut. And libertarianism is kind of trying to break a mold here and head off in a completely different direction. There is a website that I kind of stole some information from, so I want to give them credit here. Let me pull that up, and I'm bad because I closed it out and I knew I shouldn't, but hold with me just for a second. So yes, it's culturalorganizing.org, and I wanted to give them a shout out because I did take some of their graphics, and I hope they're okay with it. But they have this wonderful graphic, and it's gone around Facebook over and over and over again, or at least it has on my feed, and I hope it's gone around on yours as well. The story basically is that there are three boys who are in the outfield of a baseball game, and there's a fence that's been erected. And they want to see the baseball game, but only the tallest of the three boys can see over the fence. And they keep coming back week after week. And finally, the one of the owners of the baseball team has compassion and puts out boxes for these boys to stand on and see the game. And each one of the boys gets a box. And now this is equality, okay? Where before only the boy that was standing tall could see the game. Now at least 2 out of the 3 boys can see the game. Unfortunately, the shortest of the boys still can't. Well, another one of the owners of the team saw this as a problem and figured, oops, oh, there we go. You're seeing all my graphics there. And the owner of the team came out and redistributed the boxes. And he came up with this idea. And this is equity, right? Now, all three boys can see over the fence, and they get to see the game, and they're having a great time, and it's a great solution. It really is. Over time, these boxes would get very expensive. Now, let's just be honest. This is a systematic problem where we are now solving a systematic issue with a solution that works. So before, we just had regular society, only 1/3 of the boys could see over. We created an equal system, and 2/3 of the boys could come and see over the fence. And then lastly, we had an equity system, which distributed the boxes according to need, and all three of the boys could see over the fence. The one problem with this, the biggest problem with this, is not the fact that the problem has been solved. Great, the problem has been solved. And that's exactly what the Democrat Party is trying to do. They're trying to find an equitable way to solve the problem. And I give them kudos for that, especially all of our social problems. The unfortunate part is that those boxes are going to cost money over time, and it's going to become more and more expensive. What no one is talking about is the fact that government, or if the baseball team is the government is the one who created the fence in the first place. So the last image in the graphic is that the fence has been changed to a chain link fence. And now all the boys can see through. There are no cost of boxes. There is no nothing. It's just now that all three can actually enjoy the game. And this is more of eliminating the systemic problem. Because no boxes have been provided, and we have been in a society that we have become accustomed to these boxes that we can see over the fence. The Republicans have created boxes, and they tried creating a system of equality, which is wonderful. It solved some problems, but not all. The Democrats are trying to now put in a system of equity, which is going to solve more problems, but the distribution of everything, and it still doesn't get rid of the boxes. We get called racist or bigoted or uncaring or any other slew of terminology because we don't want to provide boxes. We want to change the system. And I think that is what we really lack in our message. We talk about how we want to end programs and, cut back on government spending and this, that, and the other thing. What we fail to drive our point across is that by not spending money on these systems, it's going to return money back to the individual. And then those individuals, through usage of the free market, they'll be able to find their own solutions to the problems because now they have the capital to do so. A perfect example of this is healthcare. So the system has created more and more barriers within our healthcare system and has caused, more and more problems within our healthcare system. And all of our solutions that we've come up with are all based on healthcare insurance, which the unfortunate aspect of forcing people to go into healthcare insurance or through healthcare insurance has caused a myriad of other problems. And yes, libertarians want to do away with health care, all the Obamacare. We just want to repeal it. We want to get rid of it. We want to get rid of the overarching system of Medicare and Medicaid and all of that. And we love talking about how we're going to get rid of it. But the thing that we really miss, and the thing that we are horrible at talking about, is the solutions that we need to come up with before we can enact these types of changes. Because you have to remember, libertarians are extremely passionate and compassionate people. We are. Talk to a libertarian. We are extremely passionate and we are extremely compassionate. There's a great story of one of our presidential candidates, and Mr. Feldman, at the Libertarian National Convention, was outside talking with some people, saw a man get hit by a car during the convention, and then himself ran out into the street because he is himself a medical doctor. Unfortunately, since then he has passed, and we all remember him very fondly. But that's the type of compassion that libertarians show on a daily basis. The things that we are... Okay, so let's rewind here for a second. So we did all of these aspects to health insurance, right? We created a marketplace, and we have created government subsidy that if you're below a certain point, you get funding to help pay, but if you're over a certain point, you don't, and all of that wonderful thing. We're not, first of all, we're not equitable. First, we're not even close to being equitable on this. We're not close to being equal on this, nothing. Because we're trying to solve it through a third party or a middleman, which this is not the way to solve it, because we're trying to solve health care through health insurance, and it's exacerbating the problem, if anything else. And what do I mean by that? So here in North Carolina, last year, from 2016 to 2017, the average individual saw 40% increases on their health insurance costs. I myself saw a 37% increase, and I no longer carry health insurance because I can no longer afford it. So the equity of the entire, while the equity was designed to be there, unfortunately the equity has failed and no longer exists. The other problem is that out of all the plans I could choose from where I live in this state, I have 5 options. I had 2 bronze, 2 silver, and 1 gold option. And they were all provided by Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So Blue Cross and Blue Shield had no competition in my area if you wanted to go through the healthcare exchange. Which causes a huge problem, because that's where all of these runaway costs then come from. Because if you have a monopoly, and this is basically a government-granted monopoly, to perform. And that's exactly where we're at. So there is no equality, there is no equity left in the system, because certain individuals have seen loopholes and have manipulated those loopholes to their own devices. So the system's already failed. It's not failing, it has failed, and we're just giving life support to a failed system. So the libertarians want to do away with this system because it's unfair to individuals. It gives companies a monopoly. There's no built-in ability for competition, and on and on and on. So the system does not work the way it was designed or intended to work. The libertarian solution, yes, is let's ditch it. But the thing that we don't talk about is the fact that we want to not only have health insurance, but we want to have concierge doctors. We want to have membership doctors. We want to have traditional health insurance. We want to have catastrophic. We want to give people so many options that it almost becomes difficult for people to choose. Because if there are that many options, there's that much competition. And then, on top of that, there's systemic aspects that we also want to enact. First of all, health insurance should be able to be sold across state lines. Because if Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina has to compete with Empire Blue Cross and Blue Shield, well, then their rates are going to go down. If they have to compete with Aetna and United Healthcare, then their rates are going to go down. If they have to compete with other brands that don't even exist yet, their rates are going to go down. It's free market. It's the way it works. Look at televisions. There are untold brands of televisions out there now. Television costs have never been lower. It's the free market, and it's how it works. If you allow doctors to create memberships, they're going to create their own practices outside of health insurance, and they're going to give the best care and the best service that they can. I'm actually looking at one right now. So you go on and you look at more options. You then all of a sudden give catastrophic insurance, which is just basically exactly what it sounds like if catastrophic events take place. Maybe some ideas on membership or something else entirely can be created by the free market that we haven't even thought of that would save people money. It's more important that people have options and more important that people have access and equal access. And then there's other systemic aspects. The FDA is driving costs of drugs up. Now, I'm not saying that the FDA is bad, but I'm also saying that the FDA is not good. There needs to be a middle ground. There needs to be something in between on what the FDA is currently and what the FDA should be doing. Because if the costs of drugs for an individual is over $3,500, as I know one individual who their drug costs are over $3,500. Now, granted, some of it's probably profit motive, but some of it also is going to be FDA and insurance and all of that. The other thing also is that there's a Hippocratic oath. These doctors swear a Hippocratic oath. Is it right for you to be able to sue your doctor unless extenuating circumstances can be proven? I mean, look at the system in Denmark. The system in Denmark, you can't sue your doctor. You have to go to a panel of doctors to see if gross negligence has been occurred. And if gross negligence occurs, then you will be receiving a monetary settlement, which is predetermined. I think that type of system is going to reduce the overall cost of medicine greatly. Because now, if you look at what doctors spend on malpractice insurance, I have a good friend of mine, she's a nurse, and she pays almost $28,000 a year in malpractice. She's been sued numerous times, not one of them has ever gone to court, but because she has been sued, and even though none of them have ever been judged in a settlement or even gone to court, she has these ridiculous increases in her insurance because they see her as a risk, rightfully or unrightfully so, because of frivolous lawsuits. I don't know what to say. So there's a huge systemic problem that the government needs to address. And just looking at one aspect, which is health insurance, is like providing boxes. When the real problem isn't the fact that people can't see over the fence, it's the problem that the fence is there or the fence can't be seen through. Let's solve the problem instead of working on solutions around the problem. And that's why libertarians are misunderstood. That's why people just don't get it. I'll get off my own soapbox now, and maybe I should work on my own systemic problems. But that's all I've got for this week. Make sure you check out Liberty's Lantern this week and every week from now on. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that we're still doing our friend raiser. If you have a friend that wants to hear about liberty or a friend that you think that needs to hear about liberty, make sure you share this video. Share it on your Facebook feed, share it on your Twitter feed, share it on your YouTube, or even share someone a link to our iTunes podcast. And let's spread the word. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.